Kia ora, good morning. Just a quick little video. I was just watching, I like to listen to stories and stuff, as you know, to get inspired. And I came across this. I don't usually watch missing people ones, unless I know it's connected to human trafficking and that sort of thing. But I go to the ones I'm drawn to. I've worked on loads of missing people cases and strange deaths and that, privately for people in the past, as you know, like hundreds of them, in fact, in my lifetime. Um, but I don't like to get involved because I don't want to be wrong. So everybody knows that when I put stuff out there about missing people, it's just like take it with a grain of salt. Use the information if it's there, but take it with a grain of salt because even me, with my skills, one of the things that I learned while I was studying the science of the psychic arts, because psychic is the science, not the ability, so we need to establish that now. And under the umbrella term of psychic, you have things like clairvoyance and premonitions and clairaudience and clairsentient and telepathy and all of that sort of thing. But one of the things I learned when it comes to things like missing people, for example, is that you can often see the best possible outcome because emotionally you don't want to be wrong when you're seeing that they're no longer alive. And when it comes to making predictions, it's a probable, possible outcome. It'll probably come true. It's possibly going to come true. That probably holds more weight because it's more in preparation. It's more the universe in preparation for a more certain positive outcome than a possible, because possibilities come with a weight of uncertainty about it. But when it comes to matters of the heart, and someone's coming to you saying, did my son kill himself, or is my child missing, or, did my husband run off, whatever the situation, why did they do it, that sort of thing. Sometimes you can tell them, sometimes you can see things that you want for them. When it comes to predictions, you can see things that is like the best possible outcome and not necessarily what's going to happen. It's not necessarily a bad thing as long as the people that you're doing it for know that you can take this information for as much as I'm giving it to you, but be prepared for the fact that there is a probability that I could be wrong about some things, like that sort of thing. That's what you need to do, because even though my hit rate is spookily impressive, I'm not saying that to be arrogant. I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. I'm saying it because it's statistically true. I have a higher statistical probability of the things that I see in my codes coming true than I do them not coming true. My hit rate is pretty impeccable, but that's because I trained and I made the sacrifices and I worked my ass off and I learned to study it. So now I know what to do. So when I'm called to make these videos about missing people without thinking about it, that's when I know I have a higher probability of what I'm about to say being true than not. However, please, I am not accusing anyone of anything. I'm only telling you the first thing that came to my mind when I was listening to the story. I put the phone away so that I can't see the pictures, and I just listen because it helps me see better, helps me read the codes better. And for me, there's a hidden language in words. There's these things hidden inside words and conversation and sentences and stuff that I pick up on a frequency level. It's like tuning into a radio signal amongst the noise of conversation. And when I tune in, it's like it has like a message in that radio signal that I write down. It's like that, but it's coming from the time period, whether it's the past, present, or future. It's coming from there. And then it's a matter of me using the present moment and balancing out, staying balanced while I can maneuver my way through the time thread, the thread of the time code, whether it's in the past or the present or the future. So working it all out using logic and reason and all of that, as well as intuition and instinct, which is like either side of the scale. It helps me plead the case or state the claim or make the pronouncement, whatever, in a way where people will know this should be looked into. But until we have evidence, don't go back to her. Like, unless the stuff she says is coming true or lines up with what we've been thinking anyway, like, listen and act, but don't, do you know what I mean? Like, this doesn't need to be revisited unless evidence starts coming out that I was telling the truth, in which case I would then start picking it up as an investigation, and properly investigate it. But this is just kind of a fly-by-night, like it's just a fleeting throwing my hat in the ring of suggestions and probabilities based on the facts because of how I do investigations. So, with that being said, the Finn McCreaney missing persons case, all I'm going to say is you need to look at who was with him when he turned his phone off. Was it him that turned his phone off? Did he get to where they said he got? Because what I've been able to gather from that is that nobody's actually had definitive proof that he got from A to B. Other than up until when he made that phone call to tell his missus how proud he was of her. He was excited. He was proud of his wife because she was building up this florist business. He was proud of her. He genuinely was very proud of her. He was happy because it was like things were finally starting to look up. He had been uncertain in the beginning. He talked about depression and stuff like that because I know people are going along the lines of, well, did he go off to kill himself? Did he go off to disappear? No, absolutely not. His depression was not an issue by that point in his life because he was optimistic. He was optimistic about the future. He was looking forward to the future. Things were picking up. He could see his business expanding. He was even talking about you know, with his survival skills and that, taking it to countries like Australia. He was looking forward to the future, and I think he was talking about this on the trip up. And someone he was with at that time um, had had enough jealousy. Whether it was someone he met along the way that he bumped into, someone he met at the starting point, someone he met somewhere around the time his phone got turned off. I'm telling you now, that wasn't him that turned his phone off. For a guy who is as well prepared for bush survival as him, who was planning on making videos for his YouTube, he would not be so stupid as to not have his phone charged and have things like backup battery packs, because he was a survival expert. And people aren't picking up on that. He wouldn't be dumb enough to have zero battery on his phone. He'd make sure everything was fully charged, and he would have like backup battery packs. Those phone battery packs are a godsend, I tell thee. I had one, but it's at the dungeon. I was given one by one of the girls when I was locked up too. They were, yeah, absolute godsend. I think they need to look into where he left and the location of where his phone got switched off, and then all the phones that were in the vicinity around him at that time, look to see where they went from there. And that's more than likely where you're going to end up finding traces of him. I think the part where he got dropped off is a red herring. And I think that the witnesses have been mistaken because they're wanting it to be him. But in doing that, it's misleading the investigation. Now, it's highly likely that there would be investigative, like from the law enforcement side, murmurings of this anyway, if they're worth their salt and their detectives' badges and stuff. But I think people are going in the wrong direction. They're looking in the wrong direction. And the focus needs to be back on who was around him at the time that he made that phone call. Where was he and who he was around? And then any of the phones that pinged around his vicinity. Follow where they went next. And it's just, I just keep picking up the frequency of jealousy. He was starting to do too well. This person who is responsible for this, and I'm not, I mean, there can be, I mean, you can say, oh, okay, look at the person or people that was in the car with him, but you have no way of knowing whether he stopped at a Morrison's and bumped into someone there. Like, you have no way unless, like, you can actually fine-tune, pinpoint with certainty, yep, he went into that store, then stopped here and blah, blah, blah. There's an infinite amount of possibilities as to what happened to him between, between where he got picked up and where his phone got switched off. Maybe it's at the bottom of the water. If it's slugs, maybe it's in the ocean. So, without looking too pinpoint into it, this is just I'm just putting it out there. That's what you need to do. Because I don't, it sounds like in all probability he never made it to the start point of his hike. He had packed for in case the weather turned, but you're telling me he didn't make sure that his phone was fully charged. So whoever switched his phone off is responsible for what happened, because they didn't want the police following the phone out to where his body was going to get taken. Bless him. He'd be worried about his wife and kid. So there's a high possibility that he might be stuck because he's worried about his wife and kid because of who did it. This was personal. Jealousy. It was jealousy, I'm telling you. Whoever it was, and I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone in any cars or anything like that, because like I said, he could have met someone like just as he was about to start his hike, but I'm telling you now, it was over for him by the time that phone was switched off. So the investigation needs to be focused on the area of where the phone was switched off and the phones that were around his phone at the time his phone was switched off, and then follow to see which ones went to slightly more remote areas and possibly even water, because I did say his phone could be at the bottom of the ocean. If it's Largs, I think he said it was Largs, but it doesn't have to be the ocean. It could just be symbolic because I mentioned water. So his body could be in, near or around water, just because I mentioned it. Everything is a code when it comes to this sort of thing. So that flippant remark could actually be him trying to put out a signal of where he is, because remember, water is a conductor of energy, and it might be how he's trying to get the message out. So I'm just saying, I'm not pointing fingers, absolutely not pointing fingers at anyone. As a scientist, you have to be logical, and logically speaking, just because something might look a certain way, it doesn't, because the truth is stranger than fiction. Many a slip between cup and a lip. A lot of things can happen between now and then, or here and there. But I'm just saying that would be a good starting point. I think things would unravel a lot faster. Yeah. So I hope they find who did it, because they took the dream away of someone who was finally having a reason to have dreams again, and they took it away from him. He was just starting to spread his wings, and somebody went and ripped them off him, gave him a different pair of wings. Bless him. That's so unfair. So if anything that I've said can help get his wife and his kid and his family and friends in that closure, then this is why I take the risk to do it. So we'll see what happens. I'll put a link in the description box below of the video that I was watching. And then you can look up the rest yourself. But that's just me throwing my hat in the ring. But obviously if more comes out and proves that I'm right, then I would start looking into it and do an investigation into it myself. Or like if the family asked me to get involved, I would. So, yeah, because I do get asked by families, as you know, like with the missing girls in New Zealand and loads of ones in the past. Right, so I'm going to go and finish my coffee now, and I shall speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.